the First Nation. I'd like to thank you all for attending tonight. My name is Penny Cote. I'm the director for the Sproat Lake electoral area, and I'd like to introduce you to the ACRD planning staff. Mr. Alex Dyer is the planning manager. Charity Hallberg Dodds is the planning technician, and Kathy MacArthur is the planning assistant. So thank you. This hearing is being held electronically using Zoom. It is being recorded and is live streaming on our website. So at this time, would staff please provide direction and instructions on how to participate in this hearing tonight? Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cote. And if it looks like I'm sweating, I'm not in the hot seat. There's sun coming in my window for the first time this year. So it's a weird feeling. But thank you, everyone, for participating in this electronic public hearing. If you are watching the live stream on the website right now and wish to join the meeting, the details on how to connect can be found in the Zoom meeting invite document linked on the public hearing page. We want to just start off, we mentioned a little bit earlier, but start off by highlighting some of the tools in Zoom that will help you participate and talk about our process, which will keep the hearing running smoothly. So if you're participating online, you have the option to either turn on or off your video and mute or unmute your audio so other meeting participants can see you and hear you. These controls are on the bottom left of your screen on a computer, if you're using a computer like myself, or the top right on a tablet or a smartphone. We just ask that you keep your audio muted at all times unless you're going to speak. This is just to reduce the background noise and help things move along smoothly. There will be an opportunity to speak after the staff introduce the application and the applicants provide comments on their proposal. So when Chair Cote calls upon any members of the public to comment on the bylaw, we ask that you either put your hand up or call out that you'd like to speak. Once you've been recognized by the chair or by staff, we just ask that you state your name and address followed by your questions or comments. As I mentioned before, for everybody on either the panelist list or the attendee list, there is a chat feature accessed from the controls on your screen if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question at any time. All comments will be addressed by staff during the public hearing, so feel free to add anything you would like to have considered as we move along. These comments will be brought forward when the chair asks for public comments, and staff will be sure to monitor that. There'll also be a final opportunity to provide your comments prior to the end of the public hearing if you'd like to make any final questions or comments. And finally, I just want to note again that this public hearing is being live streamed on the ACRD website, and a recording of the meeting will be publicly available. Thank you. Oh, you're muted, Penny.
Thanks. The subject of this hearing is bylaws P1436 and P1437. Bylaw P1436 is a Sproat Lake official community plan amendment bylaw to redesignate a portion of the subject property from residential use to commercial use and include it within the development permit area 3. Objectives for form and character. Bylaw P1437 is a zoning atlas amendment bylaw to rezone a portion of the subject property from rural A2 district to tourist commercial C6 district. If you have any questions or comments about any other related topics, I'd ask that you contact the regional district staff after this hearing has been terminated. So would staff now read out the notice of the public hearing?
Thank you. A public hearing for residents and property owners within electoral area D, Sproat Lake, will be held to consider bylaws P1436 and P1437. Bylaw P1436 is a Sproat Lake official community plan amendment bylaw to redesignate a portion of the subject property from residential use to commercial use and include it within development permit area 3, objectives for form and character. Bylaw P1437 is a zoning atlas amendment bylaw to rezone a portion of the subject property from rural A2 district to tourist commercial C6 district. The subject property is legally described as a portion of Lot A, District Lot 204, Alberni District, and Section 91, Clackwood District, Plan 31720. Both bylaws are necessary to facilitate development of a 15 to 20 cottage-style accommodation units as an extension of the existing hotel, restaurant, and retail store commercial complex. So the public hearing will be held by the director for electoral area D, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the regional district. The board resolution making this delegation, along with bylaws P1436 and P1437 and relevant background documents, are available for review online at www.acrd.bc.ca/events/28-3-2022. Planning staff are available to answer questions in person, through email, and or by phone during normal office hours, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, from March 16th, 2022 to March 28th, 2022, excluding statutory holidays. Now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, providing an opportunity for public input and safeguarding public health are top priorities for the ACRD. Consider written submissions as an effective means to provide your input. Anyone who feels their interest in property will be affected by the proposed bylaws will be afforded a reasonable opportunity to be heard. Options include participating in the public hearing by electronic means, using Zoom video conferencing or teleconferencing, and or submitting correspondence to the ACRD. If you wish to participate in the public hearing electronically or by phone, full instructions to do so are available on our website at www.acrd.bc.ca/events/28-3-2022, or can be provided by contacting planning staff by email at planning@acrd.bc.ca or by phone at 250-720-2700. This public hearing will be recorded and live streamed on our website. Written correspondence can be submitted to the ACRD by one of the following methods: hard copy delivered to the ACRD office in person in the drop slot, or by mail to the planning department at the address below. Email sent to planning@acrd.bc.ca before 4 p.m. March 28th, 2022. Email correspondence will only be considered received if receipt confirmation is provided by ACRD staff, or a fax sent to 250-723-1327 before 4 p.m. March 28th, 2022. Again, fax correspondence will only be considered received if receipt confirmation is provided by ACRD staff. All correspondence must be received by the ACRD no earlier than 8 a.m. on March 16th, 2022, and no later than 4 p.m. on March 28th, 2022. Correspondence submitted and or received outside of these parameters will not be included in the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. That was long. So the purpose of this public hearing is to receive input, written and verbal, from any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the bylaw. So the regional district will receive full minutes of this hearing before voting on the bylaws. Staff is taking minutes that summarize the issues raised. Please speak clearly to ensure accuracy. Would staff please introduce the proposal?
Okay, thank you, Director Cote. I will start with the agency referral responses. So the referral responses that we have received noted no objections to the application, or recommended that the rezoning application be approved subject to conditions outlined in the responses. I'll just highlight a few of them for you. I note that the response from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure recommended that the applicant provide additional road right-of-way dedication along Lakeshore, or obtain a commercial access permit from the ministry to accommodate access. The response from the Ministry of Forests, Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development, or so it was named at the time, advised that a water license would be required for the development of a private water system. And the response from Island Health details the requirements that would be in place for drinking water, sewage disposal, and potential subdivision of the site. If you'd like to look at the referral agency comments, a copy is available for public review on the ACRD website and will be part of the public hearing report considered by the board. We did receive 8 letters of correspondence from the public ahead of the public hearing, with 1 letter submitted on behalf of 5 residences in the area. Each of the letters express a general opposition to the rezoning application. Again, a copy of the public correspondence package is available for public review on the ACRD website, and will also form part of the public hearing report considered by the board. So the proposal that we're dealing with today, and we do have the applicant Phil Buchanan here with us, which is great, or an agent of the applicant, I should say. But the property owners of the Sproat Lake Landing property have applied to rezone this portion of the lot from A2 to C6 in order to accommodate up to 20 cottage style accommodation units as an extension of the existing hotel, restaurant, and retail store commercial complex, as we noted before. The portion of the property that is to be rezoned by this application is located on the upland portion of the property accessed off Lakeshore Road, south of the Weiner Creek Bridge. This portion of the property is about 4.3 acres in size and is vacant aside from the on-site sewage disposal infrastructure for the existing commercial uses on the property. The proposed cottage units would be limited to 1,200 square feet in floor area and could be used as either permanent or seasonal residences by the property owners or managed as short-term vacation rentals under the proposed C6 zoning. So I just want to quickly highlight the conditions of approval that were applied to the bylaws. So when the ACRD board considered this application and gave the bylaws first reading on October 27th, 2021, a number of conditions of rezoning adoption were confirmed. Now, these include the applicant agreeing to a covenant limiting the number of cottages to a maximum of 20 units, restricting the floor area of each cottage to 1,200 square feet of habitable space, excluding the carport or garage, including adequate green space on the area to be rezoned, and also that the proposed cottage development access, the proposed cottage development access to Sproat Lake is guaranteed through the parent property. Excuse me. So the intent of the covenant is to limit the scale of the overall development and also to ensure that the primary access to the waterfront from the cottage development be provided through the existing hotel property and via the existing and any future pathway and dock access infrastructure adjacent to the hotel on that portion of the property. An additional condition of approval would be confirmation from a registered on-site wastewater practitioner that the property is capable of accommodating on-site sewage disposal to accommodate the additional 20 units. A letter from J.E. Anderson and Associates dated February 4th, 2022 has been submitted providing recommendations for the design and installation of a sewer system that will meet Island Health's sewerage system regulations to accommodate the 20 cabins. Again, if you'd like to have a look at the letter, a copy is available for public review on the ACRD website and will form part of the public hearing report that will be considered by the board. Another condition was the referral to Island Health to confirm the operational requirements for a private water system to service the cottage development. That is the applicant's intention, is to develop a private water system within that area. So the referral response we received from Island Health highlights the need for a construction permit required for the development of any drinking water infrastructure at the site. And we will ensure that the applicant work with Island Health under the Drinking Water Protection Act to make sure that that happens prior to any occupancy at the site. And then the last condition of approval was a referral to the Sproat Lake Fire Department to confirm the adequate fire protection, that adequate fire protection can be provided to the cottage development. And the response that we received from the fire department at the time indicated that their interests are unaffected. So I think I'll leave it there, and I'll pass it back to you, Director Cote. Thank you.
Thank you. So is the applicant represented here tonight?
Yes. My name is Philip Buchanan with J.E. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Philip
Okay.
Buchanan with J.E. Anderson and Associates, speaking on behalf of Sproat Lake Landing.
Okay, so at this time, would the applicant like to add anything?
I have a short presentation, so perhaps I'll go through that. I've got a screen share, and I'll put up a small agenda for this presentation summary. I'll be speaking on behalf of the applicant, Ross Mitchell, and just one moment here. Yes, the applicant, Ross Mitchell, and Sproat Lake Landing. The proposal is to change the remaining portion of this property to tourist commercial to create approximately 1,200 square foot tourist accommodation cabins on the 4.5 acre site. Lot coverage is anticipated to be about 10%, and we hope to secure an economically viable neighborhood. Adjacent properties, I think it's helpful to point out on this plan here. Can we see that okay? Okay. The property, there's the cleared area in the middle on the bottom left of the screen.
Oh, actually, Phil, I'm not seeing the plan if that's what you're trying to describe.
Oh, maybe I need to.
Just seeing your notes.
Okay, I better, thank you for pointing that out. I'll look at that.
You might need to screen share another
Yes,
page. Yeah.
there we go. Can we see that?
Nope.
Oh dear. Okay, let me try this. You know what I'll do? I'll wing it. I'm going to not show that. I'll describe it. Your screen sharing is paused. Stop screen share. Okay. Can we see that now?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay. Anyway,
no
I'll carry on then. The site zoning, the current site where the 20 cottages are proposed, it has the Pacific Rim Highway to the west. To the north is the commercial C2 zone for Della's Cafe. To the east is a parcel that is also zoned commercial. And then to the south are some large properties with homes, roughly 100 acres, 100 meters from the proposed cabin site. In summary, then, the site has a highway on one side and commercial development on two sides and large lots on the other. I believe the site's appropriate for a rezoning for the commercial. Is the screen gone now, Alex?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. I'll talk briefly about the official community plan. The policy 8.2.4 of the official community plan states, support the extension and location of tourist and neighborhood services in the West Bay area. Policy 8.2.6 states, promote economic development, tourism, and recreational opportunities. I believe those two policies, although located within the commercial part of the OCP, they support this proposed rezoning. I'll reiterate that the Sproat Lake APC considered this application on October 8, 2018, where they resolved to support the application as presented and concur with their staff recommendation. Alex went through the referrals. I don't think I have to talk about them again. They were all favorable. I know there was some concern from the public regarding sewage disposal. So let me just mention again that BHA has addressed that issue or commented, and they have no concerns. I'll talk a little bit about community input. We believe there is a broad community support for Sproat Lake Landing. Our neighbors enjoy gathering at Drinkwaters. Della's Cafe is a convenient local coffee shop, and Sproat Lake Landing looks forward to expanding the services to the neighborhood. Tourists appreciate the well-appointed lodge. Sproat Lake Landing and our neighbors are hopeful that the services that were offered before the COVID pandemic can return. Despite positive input, we did find a few consistent messages within the community input, and I'd like to offer some answers. Item 1, Drinkwaters became Drinkwaters bubble during the pandemic to provide a safe dining experience for any residents of the Alberni Valley. It was not open to guests from outside the community. The bubble was not a first choice, but it was the necessary choice. We wish to thank the many residents who supported Drinkwaters and the bubble. Your patronage helped this establishment survive. We hope that Drinkwaters becomes a local and convenient gathering place soon. Item 2, I have reviewed the sewage treatment site and the design. That's the existing system. The capacity of the sewage system greatly exceeds the actual sewage flow to the system. Sproat Lake Landing will review this closely and ensure all health regulations are met. Item 3, the sewage flow from the 20 cabins will be treated and managed in a separate sewage disposal system. The new system will be constructed for the cabins alone. No additional flow will be directed to the existing sewage system. Item 4, parking for the new cabins will be managed in accordance with the ACRD zoning bylaws. We anticipate a minimum of 1 parking stall for each guest room, and we intend to exceed that minimum. Item 5, fortunately, Sproat Lake Landing is located at the intersection of Pacific Rim Highway and Lakeshore Road. There is excellent highway access. and a three-way stop, we anticipate limited traffic issues. Please note that the MOTI referral is favorable. Some comments regarding neighborhood and community services. The current facilities offer Della's Cafe, drink waters, float plane services, and complimentary use of the property and the docks for the Youth Sailing School, the Outrigger Society, the Dragon Boat Society, and Sproat Lake Landing has also provided extensive and will continue to offer extensive community donations to community services in the area. I suppose in response to some of the community thoughts and community concerns, I would like to add that Sproat Lake Landing is committed to continue providing amenities to the neighborhood and to tourists, to provide economic development, tourism, recreational opportunities, to provide jobs for residents in the Alberni Valley, and with community support to reinstate Drinkwaters as a local gathering place and restaurant. We hope to ensure the sewage system is operating in accordance with the sewer system regulation and to good industry standard. And we will continue to discuss with MOTI to accommodate the extension of the Lakeshore Trail south past the cottages. In closing, Sproat Lake Landing is asking the Sproat Lake community, the local area director, and the ACRD board to support the expansion of tourist and neighborhood services in the West Bay area. We ask the director to support this recommendation. Thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of Sproat Lake Landing and Ross Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Buchanan. Okay, at this time, we will now hear from members of the public. So I'd like to say, please wait until you've been recognized by me as the chair. State your name and your address before beginning. We will hear from anyone wishing to speak for the first time before allowing them to speak for a second time. So at this time, is anyone wanting to speak up? I recognize Gary Ritter. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gary Ritter, 10773 Lakeshore, about 7 driveways past the Sproat Lake Landing. My concern primarily is the water quality around the lake, around this area. What we've seen in the past when there's a lot of traffic through the West Bay area coming in for access to the store, the liquor store, and the pub, is the boats, when they come in, they tend to stir up the water in and around their dock area. They've extended it out, but it's still, by the time August comes around, it's only like 3-4 feet deep there, maybe even less. So there's another 6 feet of silt underneath that, but it's very, very shallow. And a lot could be done in that area to help to mitigate that. If they, at the very minimum, put signage out dead slow. They've extended the dock out somewhat, which has helped. Putting a breakwater further out. There's various options, but the primary problem is when they come in and do that, they stir up the silt. And there is a current in this bay. It's very slow, but it's about, I don't know what it is. So maybe a couple of feet or maybe more per hour, maybe 6 feet or 10 feet an hour or something like that. But it's a very slow movement around our bay. And that silt, when it stirs up, our water's crystal clear underneath our dock through most of the year. Well, in the wintertime, everything's a little bit siltier, but spring, summer, fall, it's clear until the traffic starts to pick up in and around that, around the West Bay and around their dock. That silty water, you can't even see the bottom. We're about 8-10 feet off of our dock. It becomes so silty you can hardly see the bottom, and it's like glass. It's crystal clear any other time. So that's my main concern, is just the traffic around there and the additional traffic load. I think it would also be of concern to any new residents as well, to be honest. If they're going to be out there, I can't to be honest, see them using that as a place for them to swim, because they can't swim in 3 feet of water with straight mud anyways, but they're going to be accessing that dock and going out from there. I don't know exactly what the intention is, but I would really like to know, is there going to be anything done, or is there, can they make a plan, or can anything be done about keeping the traffic down? The biggest problem is when people take off from the dock and immediately try to go up on a plane or idle out at a fast speed and stir up the water and cause all this silt problem. If there's any way to keep the boats down to a dead slow, just a crawl out until they're another couple 100 feet out and then take off, it will make a huge difference. And it's a big concern for water quality, for drinking water. All that loon shit and everything else, all the carp live in that area now. They're down in that silt. Everything gets stirred up and it goes into everybody's water system all along here. And you're in there swimming in it and everything as well. So to keep that down, any additional traffic in there is just going to exacerbate the problem. So if something's going to happen here with these, I'm not totally opposed to development, but I am opposed to further exacerbation of our water problem. And I'd like to see something in the way of remediation, something be done to help alleviate this problem. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Gary. I see Kim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I missed the first 15 minutes.
Can you state your
What?
name and address, please,
Oh,
first?
yes,
Thank you.
sorry. Kim Smith, and my address is 10750 Lakeshore Road. My property line is right, our fences are in common from that rock over there, that piece of property. And I'm going to say that it's a rock again, and I'm concerned. Well, I wrote a letter about my concerns, but I'm also, or an email, but I'm also concerned, I'll just say it again, about the fence line. That's one thing. And then that rock, it's a steep driveway into there. I'm wondering how people are going to go in and out of there. I'm wondering how I can protect my fence line. I don't have a fence there now because the previous owners blasted that rock all summer, one summer, logged it and then blasted it. And it didn't take the height of the rock down. I don't know how they're going to get that down or level so they can even build on it. And then as people are coming and going out of there with their cars, the driveway is right at the bridge. I find that, and then we have a three-way stop after you go over the bridge. The bridge is narrow. There's only one walkway on one side of it. And I find it, I think it's going to be dangerous because people fly down our road. And I know that they shouldn't, but they do. And I've had people in my pond, in my waterway before. And I'm concerned about those things. Also, you know, like okay, there's a waterway between the hotel and this big, huge piece of property with this big, huge rock. And so people are going to be on their own and they're going to have children, maybe, you know, where are they going to go with their children? Like if their children are out playing and they're packing their cars, there's wildlife trails. Are they going to end up in my property? Are they, you know, I've had other people come from the road, from the highway that ended up in my backyard and couldn't get out of my backyard because they were fenced in then on Lakeshore Road. So I just, I'm concerned about my quality of life because of it. Also, my waterway has frogs and I've kept my property pretty natural. And I've lived here for 22 years and I think that 20 cabins is excessive for that piece of property considering it's all rock. I don't know how, I heard that they've got it figured out how they're gonna do septic, but I worry about what happens if there's a septic problem and it all rolls down the rock into my waterway. It's on my property. You know, like we already have problems with that. You know, because in the winter, if the beavers come and they block up the waterway, it can almost flood my place. And my neighbor Chris, you know, we have problems with that already. I'm having a hard time seeing that because they've tried this before, and then when you say that he's, you know, doing this for the community, like it's a community thing, you know, I used to walk my grandchildren down there and be able to go out on the dock. It's all locked up like crazy now. And it's more like a private club. They're saying they're going to change it to be a community place again, but people say whatever they want to say. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. And I'm sorry, but I don't trust it. I really think that, you know, I don't know, is he selling it or is he keeping it? Because if he's doing this just to sell it, you know, what is the next person going to do? I don't know. I thought that they had zoned it so that it was supposed to be one residence is all that it could handle. And I feel kind of odd about that, because if I wanted to break my place up into plate and subdivide it, I couldn't put 20 cabins here. Like I'd have to rezone it like you say, but you know, then what happens? The road here, I don't think can handle this. That's another part of it. I'm concerned about the road, the septic, people trespassing. My fence, you know, was compromised and I still haven't got that fixed. And, you know, I don't know. Those are my concerns. I don't know. It's just going to change my community. My community is already changing, but that's just going to be a huge thing for me. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, thank you.
Vinny, can I just make a comment on the access before we get going here? If that's okay.
Okay, sure.
Just quickly, because I thank you for bringing it up, Kim. I think that's important. I just want to highlight that there's a couple mechanisms that will regulate access on this property and you know, ensure that the public have safe access to the site. The main one, first and foremost, is that the Transportation Act actually requires that the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure sign off and approve the rezoning bylaw before the ACRD can adopt it. And that's because the property is located within 800 meters of a controlled access highway. So that's their ability to look at things like road safety and is the bridge wide enough? Is the access in there wide enough? And you know, I do recognize that it is a little steep. The ministry's referral response that I mentioned earlier references a potential need for additional road right-of-way dedication along Lakeshore, or that the applicant be required to obtain a commercial access permit from the ministry. So if this application moves forward, the applicant will be required to engage with the ministry on ensuring safe access prior to the ACRD moving ahead with the zoning bylaw. So that is important. Secondly, the OCP requires a development permit application prior to any development or construction to satisfy the development permit area 3 guidelines that will consider things like access and egress and parking, trail access, and all that as a part of the development permit application that would be considered by the Sproat Lake Advisory Planning Commission and the ACRD board. So I just wanted to throw that out there as we talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Chris Law with your hand up. Name and address, please.
Chris Law, 10693 Tilley Road. My property is adjacent to the property up for rezoning, and I also sent a letter in outlining my concerns about it. Just to be clear, I'm not in favor of it. As far as the official community plan goes, I participated in all the hearings and I was keeping an eye on this property. And originally, none of the Westbury property was deemed commercial on the official community plan. And the current owners actually lobbied to get the section that is commercial on the official community plan zoned commercial. And I was relieved at the time to see that they weren't trying to include that section up beside my place, because part of the reason I purchased that property was the zoning was the way it was. 4-acre minimum, 1 resident, and that's what I bought into that place. There was a lot of public input into the official community plan. I've sat on numerous brainstorming sessions for the community of Sproat Lake. where everybody drew little pictures and, you know, people wanted a thriving community that serviced the neighborhood. And so we've been working on, as a member of the Parks Commission, I've been working on getting the trail network in and creating the community that I want to live in. So, but in all the participation that I in the community plans, this wasn't something that sort of was discussed. You know, we accepted the Sproat Lake and the West Bay Hotel as it was. There was an opportunity when it burnt down to create something that was really good for the community and viable business. I'm not sure if they hit the nail on the head with that, because it hasn't really seemed to serve the community with the new construction which they put in there. I've supported that business to the best of my ability, and I will continue, but I just don't think it needs to expand onto that piece of property. As far as the 20 cabins, I think they will put pressure on the public access points, because there's no way you can police where those people are going to go swimming. I don't know how you'd even do that. As Gary said, it's a bog, beaver pond, weedy. They'll get the itch. It's full of birds. That's the first thing you'll do swimming down there is get the itch. So it'll all be boat traffic coming in and out of there. For the 20 cabins, we'll all need boats to get somewhere else on the lake to access all the other places, which will put more pressure onto all those nice little beaches along the lake. We used to be able to hop in our canoe and paddle to some of those places, and as the lake gets busier, we a lot of times run out of luck. We turn around and come back because we can't find any of those spots anymore. So this has just put more pressure on the lake. Yeah, and then so Weiner Bay is a coho spawning coho habitat where they head up Weiner Creek to spawn. The coho in that section of the creek are already under pressure. All that more boat traffic in and out of there on a seasonal basis will have an impact on the coho. It's just one more thing affecting the fish habitat and fish survival of the salmon in Sproat Lake. The septic system is kind of interesting. The original septic system from the West Bay had an effluent discharge that came off that rock whenever the hotel was busy, flowed down into the ditch, and then flowed into the fish creek. I actually pointed it out to Don Anderson at the time that the effluent from the old septic system was flowing into the fish creek, and he told me it was a spring. I pointed out to him it's kind of a weird spring that only flows when it's the driest, hottest time of the summer and the hotel's the busiest. But he assured me it was a spring. So the West Bay put a whole bunch of money into the new septic system, and it actually still does the same thing. And I think it is because that it sits up on top of a rock, and hydrology figures out where it wants to go, and it just hits that rock and perks down across it fills up the ditch in the summer and still flows into the fish creek. So it's something that the current system can't even handle the capacity. So it'll be interesting to see how they try and figure out stopping the effluent from 20 cabins flow either into the riparian system on Kim's side of the creek or into Weiner Creek, because it's surrounded by two riparian areas. And the property is along Highway 4 as they indicated. I had a neighbor clear cut the area of his, and it's amazing how much more noise we get coming through our property now. And the same thing can happen with those 20 cabins going in. It could open it up for the noise to come across and affect the lake, affect people on the south side, the large properties that were indicated in the opening statement. And the property is currently for sale. So it's interesting to see this development on the real estate advertisement. So it's not like when they says Sproat Lake Landing's doing it. Sproat Lake Landing sold, and it was the transfer was supposed to happen mid-March, and now it's been deferred to end of April. And I'm sort of curious if it's pending this zoning approval. I'm not sure, but I'm just curious about that. So it's not the current owners that are going to be providing anything to us because it's up for sale for maximum profit. And I think this zoning application increases their profit. And I think it's motivated a little bit by profit here. And one of the things that happens is once the zoning's changed, the residents will lose control of what happens on the property. It doesn't seem like the ACRD has the ability to manage these developments. I can point out the thing that's going on down at bottom of Tilley Road. There's a fish creek that somehow got designated as a ditch and it's being filled in. There's debris in it right now. I'm going to be following up with Ministry of Forests to find out how they can encroach on the riparian area and fill debris into an S4 stream that flows directly into the community watershed. You can I've asked for the biologist assessment on it. I haven't got it from anybody because I think it needs to be forwarded onto the professional biology people of British Columbia to practice professional reliance on their members. And I think I'd like to see that report that allowed that development to go close to our riparian area. So that's pretty much my concerns about it. I'm not in favor of it. It's just, I don't think it doesn't serve the neighborhood that I've worked to create. I just find that with more and more people that are sort of coming transient, they don't have the care for the lake that the people who have lived here for the years have put into this place and created this special place that everybody sort of discovered lately. And unfortunately, in the discovery, we just sort of have to protect it so it doesn't get ruined. So it can be a nice place to keep living and have a good neighborhood in. And that's what I want to say about that.
Thank you, Chris. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Core? Please, your name and address, please.
Core West, 10715 Lakeshore Road. I have a couple of concerns about the zoning change. The first one is the property in question is bordered by Weiner Creek, and I call it the wetland pond, or that's beside Tim. I never knew there was fish in the pond, but there's a little creek flowing out, and we've seen fish going through there through my neighbor's property. So there's fish bearing on both sides, what makes it very tricky to do a development what's so dense as this particular development. So I have my questions about that. My other concern is the traffic. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic on Lakeshore Road at that location, going to the landing and to the Dallas Cafe. And I've been there for 5 years. I've seen a definitely increase during the summer. There's a lot of traffic, and there's also a lot more bicycles on the road. Now, I'm a runner myself, and I know on Lakeshore, there's no shoulder. There may be a little bit of a shoulder, it's full of potholes. So most of the times you have to run on the road, and with the hills on the road, the visibility is not very good. So by bringing quite an influx of vehicles on the road and that narrow piece before the bridge, I have some concerns there. I think if they're going to do that, they have to do some substantial offsite road improvement there to make it work. And then on top of that, there's a driveway going up. I realize the driveway is not right by the bridge, it's on the other side of the property. But this is also steep there, so that does not help. Pulling in there with boat trailers, I can see that being a little bit of an issue, especially if there's a rock face there also. Then the owner says he makes the dock available for swimming and for mooring the boats. Now, I realize the dock is being extended this past winter. That's probably a good thing because the dock that was there in the middle of the summer, half the dock is surrounded by water lilies. And I know there's numerous occasions people come for dinner to the landing. There's no place to go with the boat because you cannot go in the water lily areas with any power boats. So lots of times there's just no place to moor. Now they're adding possible 15 or 20 boats. Well, that fills the whole new dock area probably up, and it might not be even big enough. So, and regarding swimming, it's not a great area. It's very shallow. Our dock is only 2 docks away from there, and yeah, you got to go way out to do swimming because on the shore you can't really. So I have concerns there. And then my last thing is when we bought our property 5 years ago, one of the instruments we go by when we purchase some property is we look at all the surrounding zoning. And what we did in this case, and everything looked favorable because our neighbor property is zoned commercial, but it's used as residential, so there was no concerns about that. But the particular property across the road was zoned rural, and I would say, it would stay like that. I couldn't see it change. So I do support development, but under the current zoning. I don't mind if under the current zoning, 1 or 2 residences were built on a piece of property and make it do something with it. And yeah, so overall, I don't support this whole development because it's definitely not supporting the community at all. Because they're not going to spend any time at the cabins, and most of the neighbors probably won't either. So it doesn't support the community. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Cor. I have a question for staff. The Sproat Lake Landing, does it have a marina designation in front of it? Thanks.
It does not, no. There's only 2 commercial marinas on the lake, and that's at the Fish and Duck and the Sproat Lake Marina, the former Clay Coop Marina. So it would be a group merge facility associated with their commercial development.
And there's nothing with this zoning application that is looking at creating a marina at all?
No, the zoning would not, the current zoning on the waterfront there would not allow for a commercial marina, so they can't rent out boat slips, they can't do anything like that.
So how would that work then if 20 cabins are built and people are talking about boat moorage there? That would not be allowed?
No, there are a number of group moorage facilities that are associated with upland properties, like Tall Timbers is an example of that, where each of the campsites will have a boat slip for the strata development on Marina Vista as well. So that would be what I would envision that they would be developing, although they haven't made any mention of whether they would be providing a boat slip to the cottages or not. I would let the owner or the applicant speak to that.
Okay, we'll come back to the applicant at the end. I see Nancy. Please state your name and address.
Thank you, Director Cody. I am somewhat confused about this application. In principle, I understand the need for some improved access to the lake. There really is nothing other than the provincial campsite for visitors. So I am very mixed about this and the fact that Lakeshore Landing is attempting to capture visitors to the area, which I think we all would like to see to some degree. However, this zoning, it's the portion of the property that's listed it was item C under zoning. The rezoning application, property owner is applying to rezone this portion of the property to tourist commercial, C6, district to accommodate the development of 15 to 20 cottages each with approximately 1,000 square feet. The applicant is also considering a building strata subdivision to allow the cottage to be individually strata titled. The cottages could be used as permanent or seasonal residences by the property owners, or they could be used as short-term vacation rentals or managed as vacation rentals through the Sproat Lake Landing Hotel. So there is a whole bunch of conflicts within those statements in the fact that short-term vacation rentals require approval and applications through the ACRD. Commercial normally doesn't have permanent residence, and although I didn't realize it was C2, looking at the C6, our new zoning for C2 says it is not intended for full-time year-round residents except to support a 60% temporary accommodation. If this property was zoned to current zoning for residential, at the very most, it would be 0.24 hectares per lot, which would be a maximum of 7 to 8 properties within this. So the push of 20, I am totally concerned and agree with others about the environmental impacts to both sewage and our water quality. I'm also quite concerned about the density. We have a very significant egress lack for this whole peninsula of Sproat Lake. Should we have an interface fire or anything else, there is no way for residents to get out if it is blocked at the bridge, and 20 more residents or visitors that aren't familiar to the area would be concerning. So Director Cote, I would really appreciate if you would ask the applicant why we have a conflict there within the, at one point being permanent people and another point attached to the hotel. I am more in favor of this being completely under the auspices of the hotel, where they are in control of the number of occupants, therefore the number of toilet flushes into our environmentally sensitive lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Can staff answer that at all?
So I can begin to do that, and if you'd like to call on Phil to provide some more clarity from the owner's perspective, I'd be happy to do that. But just to clarify about the C6 zoning, so the C6 is our hotel motel zoning. That's the zoning that's applied to where the hotel is built right now. It allows for short-term vacation rentals already, so it wouldn't create a situation where somebody needs to apply for a temporary use permit under the short-term rental temporary use permit application process that we have. That's intended for more residential dwellings and homes and people that want to do the Airbnb thing, whereas the C6 zoning that they've applied for would just allow for short-term vacation rental, nightly, weekend, weekly, that sort of thing. And then the way that our zoning bylaw works is that we cannot regulate the use of a hotel like that. So if somebody were to want to live there for half a year or even buy it and live there for the entire year, our zoning wouldn't restrict that. That would be similar to what happens at Maples. So the Maples development is zoned C6, and they have our zoning would allow the ability for that development to either rent nightly or to be owned and lived in on a permanent basis. The strata has the ability to set additional rules, so maybe the strata might not be supportive of that, but our zoning would not differentiate.
Thank you. If the applicant would like to respond to that also, you would have that opportunity.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Sproat Lake Landing and Ross Mitchell, I do recognize and understand. You can hear me okay? I do recognize and understand that the earlier proposal talked about perhaps Bearland strata and having the opportunity to sell units. That is one way that someone can perhaps finance cottages. But I do know that the vision for the property is not full-time. It's tourist accommodation. Full-time residences in those cottages would not support Della's Cafe and the restaurant, Drink Waters, and the hotel operation. So that's the goal, and that's what I understand is what's desired. And I think that supports what the community is hoping out of this, that the Della's Cafe gets supported, Drink Waters is supported, and we have a tourist recreational area there. The vision doesn't include a dock. I think with the tourist accommodation and families coming for a week or 3 nights, enjoying the dock, there is deep water off the dock for a swimming location that's been put in. That's the vision that I understand is out there. That's my thoughts for the property. It's not 20 private cabins and 20 boats and a need for word slips. That's not it at all. The vision again is, and perhaps in addition to that, hotel ownership and management. Okay. I could add more if there's more questions.
Thank you, Phil. At this time, we'll go have Barbara and Len Smith. Please state your name and address.
Oh, hi. Thank you for taking our call here. My name is Barbara Smith and my husband here is Len Smith. Our address is 10707 Lakeshore Road. And the proposed changes is of the property directly behind us on Lakeshore Road. So we have sent in a letter to you outlining our concerns. And I think we had a lengthy letter that was also signed by a number of our neighbors nearby. So there's two things that I wanted to make sure that we reiterated. I think number one is the density. The density absolutely scares me. It scares me for the environment. It scares me for the community. It scares me for just traffic. It's just, I think it's far, far too much. And from what I hear from you is that it may be even possible to have 20 Airbnbs back behind me where people are coming and going, you know, a day or two or whatever. That is just not part of our community that we want, not at all. The second thing is the parking. I mean, this is a narrow road. Are you going to put up, you know, parking along the edge? No parking, and how far back will that be with the trail proposed as well? I mean, it's just really seems to us quite unmanageable and not necessary whatsoever. We feel that our properties are large, a number of them, and certainly a home or two on that property would be, I think, a proposal that we could accept. But certainly not 20. 20 is far, far too much for the properties in our area. And again, the density is just outrageous. And so we do not support this whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Okay, at this time, is there any further comments from anyone? Okay, I'd like to let the applicant respond, and then we'll go to second calls. So I see Gary and I see Chris. So we'll have Phil first, and then we'll go to Gary. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just refer back to the portions of the OCP that support the expansion and location of tourist and neighborhood services in the West Bay area. I believe there's value in tourism for the community, there's jobs, and along with the tourism and the people that support drink waters in the cafe, we hope that that area can be a nice neighborhood area for the community to enjoy. It's a bit of a tough go for the business without the 20 cabins there to bring people in to spend money and to enjoy the facilities. I think if West Bay area would like some tourist accommodation and jobs, this location at the highway, at the intersection of Lakeshore Road, a proper highways access, highways are not finding difficulty with the proposal, they support it. I believe it's good for the community and it's the right place for some cabins within the community to allow additional family use around Sproat Lake. I'll let that sit for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Because I see that Brian Sowden has his hand up and he hasn't spoke for the first time, I will allow him to speak, and then I'm on to Gary and Chris. So Brian, please state your name and address. Thank you.
It looks like you're muted, Brian. If that's if you're trying to unmute yourself on a phone, I think it's *6. But we can.
Okay, maybe then we'll move on.
I think we got him there.
Are we good now?
We can hear you, Brian. Yep.
Great. It's Brian Soden. It's 10745 Lakeshore Road. We sent in a letter as well. There's a couple of things on the couple of comments from what I've heard so far. As far as the Sproat Lake Landing and that being community-minded, in the past few years, we've noticed the complete opposite. They've cut out the Halloween, they've cut out the fireworks, they've cut out access to their docks, they've cut out access for the community just to use the restaurant and whatnot. And, you know, they've blocked off their parking lot. And so if this is their way of treating the community as a community-minded citizen, then I can't see that this new development that they're planning is going to be any different, whether it's just money orientated, but they haven't, so far I haven't seen any where they've listened to the people in response to some of the letters and stuff, that I haven't heard anyone say they're in favor of this many cabins going in. And a couple of things, this many people, if you have, say, 4 people per cottage, and they're wanting to get to the dock, they're going to walk. And as it is now, from the store to the hotel and the docks, no one uses the crosswalk that's there. They just cut across the road, jaywalk, and they're oblivious to traffic that's coming. And there's so many people that don't even abide by the stop sign. They just blow right through it. So we're going to have people walking on that road, just crossing willy-nilly, and we're going to have people hit and killed probably. So there's no forethought, I think, in their planning here, whether it's, I can't see that's neighborhood community-minded what they're doing. And yeah, and just the overall density of having 20 places on that small lot. That's here years ago, they excavated the thin layer of topsoil that was on the bedrock. So there's no room for any water escapement. So you're going to have runoff that's going to go directly into 2 fish-bearing creeks, Weiner Creek and that little creek that's to the south of them. Now this current sewage system they have there, it does weep into the ditch, and it's certain times of the year when they're very busy, you can smell a sewage smell. Now, and when it's, you know, usually in the summertime when it's dry, and it's quite often wet there. So I don't think, you know, because it's built on bedrock, the sewage has nowhere to go. You know, can't go down; it has to go out sideways. So, you know, we just have the, you know, the through what would be used to be St. Jake's property next to us. It's a fish-bearing creek, and it goes into the ponds above it. So, I think this development would be just too large for such a small property, and we've been here for many, many years, and we've seen what the consequences of having sewage run into our lake and whatnot. And then, so anyway, that's my couple of comments, and I did send in a letter, and it shows some of our other concerns we had. But overall, it's just too many places and inadequate property to put something like this on, whether it's for sewage, overall density, you know, the traffic, and just the safety of the people and whatnot. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So now I go back to my list. I have Gary, Chris, and Kim. So Gary, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Penny. I just wanted to say my neighbors have come up with a lot of really good points here. This individual that owns this place, that owns Sproat Lake Landing, you know, we're talking about new development to serve the neighborhood. I don't think his development does anything at all to serve the neighborhood. It just serves himself. But adding 22 units is not serving our neighborhood. All it's doing is adding to density in this neighborhood. If he's adding this density to help support his establishment, and you can't support his establishment because of the neighborhood. Well, the problem is not us, it's him. He has shut down we're not allowed in his facility. He has closed off that facility to the public. It's now a private club. You have to belong to a club to go into that place. He shut out the neighborhood. He has closed down the beer and wine store. He's closing everything down. He's not allowing people in there. And now he's saying he needs these units to help support his facility. Doesn't make any sense to me. There's a big community here, and he's getting no support for them because he's not allowing them in. So, you know, adding 20 new units is just adding density right in this local neighborhood. It's doing nothing to support the neighborhood. It's detracting from the neighborhood. Chris had a very good point. There's no control over, so theoretically, all these people are going to access the lake through that Sproat Lake, or through the Sproat Lake Landing dock. That's a very shallow dock. I believe Phil made some comment about them swimming off the end of that dock. That's just not possible. You can't swim off of that dock. Where are they going to go? There's very limited space in the public accesses around here at the moment. Where do you think they're going to go? There's a couple of nice accesses here. There's 20 new units with however many people in there. And this is summertime. Keep in mind, in the summertime around here, this is a resort area. It's not one family goes in there. They crowd in there. There'll be high price rent, Airbnbs, whatever. They bring in 4 families. They bring in crowds into this place. If it's year round, a few places, yeah, so be it. It adds to the neighborhood. But this is a money grab just to you know, to put a bunch of these places in and rent them out. You're going to have huge crowds coming in here. Where are they going to go? They're going to come down to the dock and try and go for a swim. You're going to have kids, you're going to have families, you're going to have the whole gamut. You're going to have a huge variety. Where are they going to go? They're going to spread out looking for a place to go swimming. They're going to crowd out all the neighborhood. I mean, where else are they going to go? Yes, if they've got boats, then off they go. But again, that's a good point. That's not a public marina. I'm understanding there's a movement afoot to try and regulate the docks around here, limit the number of boats around the neighborhood to only so many boats per dock. And yet you're going to have 20 units there with how many boats, and you're going to put them all on that dock? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Where are all those boats going to go? And again, one family per unit? I doubt it. Not in the summertime. It'll be a crowd. Where are they all going to go? What else did I have to say here? I think that's probably pretty good. You get the idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Next is Chris Law.
Yeah, Chris Law, 10693 Tilly Drive. Just wanted to pick up on the point about the dock. So, you know, like what Gary said, there is a talk about trying to restrict the dock sizes. And as a person who uses the lake all year round as a paddler, I'm not all that much into motorboats. I like to paddle, I like to sail, get on my paddle boat, get on my kayak. I'm having trouble now getting to shore. You know, especially they mentioned as an example of what could happen is, you know, tall timbers or the area above there. You know, I broke a rudder on my sailboat and went crashing into the breakwater in front of tall timbers, and it took me half an hour to weave my way through all the breakwaters to actually get to shore, pull the sailboat out of the water. And you know, so the Sproat Lake Landing has extended their dock this winter when a lot of people aren't on the lake, and you know, probably no consultation. It actually now extends so far it goes out past the Sproat Lake Fire Hall and in front of the residents past there. So you know, it's like that property, you know, if you want to put 20 cabins in and you want them to access through that property, I'm not sure what they're going to do. It's either motorboats or they're not swimming there. And, you know, and I don't think extending that dock out is, you know, it serves the hotel, but it doesn't serve all those other people now that are going to be looking out their window at the Sproat Lake Landing's dock out in front of them. So just wanted to confirm that point. And then the other thing too is once, you know, we went through the whole thing of the rezoning of a lakeshore store so many years ago, and when it was owned by a previous owner. And, you know, now I hear that's going to be the next thing we're going to be discussing is the rezoning of the lakeshore store. So, you know, once it goes to commercial, You know, it doesn't need necessarily mean they're going to do this. They may just sit on it, and then we might be going through this for in the future for, you know, 40 units or something else. It's sort of like the progress that happens. You change it from residential to commercial, and then next thing you know, you're going to be changing it to higher density commercial. So I'm happy with the zoning the way it is, and I don't support the application. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Kim Smith.
Hi, I just wanted to add, like, I really agree with everything that's being said here by my neighbors. And I want to also talk to this idea that he needs that and that's going to bring jobs. It's my understanding by friends and my niece even that worked there that he can't keep employees. And that's a personal problem and a management problem. So I'm questioning his ability to manage what he already has. And the fact that he can't keep employees. In fact, the place is closed a lot. I think that when, you know, he says it's from COVID, but even before COVID, it was closed like on days that normally a business would be open. I have had businesses and you cannot close them for like half the week and expect to be profitable because people get used to going there, you know, and being able to get service. And the liquor, the wine and liquor, you know, getting rid of that, I feel that was a huge hit on his ability to make a profit also. I mean, I don't know this man, but I think that, you know, you can make a profit with things that you have, but just
Okay.
keeping to reaching on is kind of like overkill.
Thanks. I don't think that's really has anything to do with this application.
Okay.
At this
Well, it is
time.
about having to have the cabins and jobs. That's
Yes.
he said. Phil said that it would bring jobs, but our community is mostly retired. Who are these jobs going to go to? Do you see what I'm saying? Like there's nobody to work.
Okay, yes, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to say anything at this time for a first or a second time? Would staff or the applicant like to add anything?
Thank you.
Recognize Bill?
Yeah, perhaps I don't want to repeat myself. It is a public hearing. I just want to reiterate that the owners at Sproat Lake Landing, they've had some struggles with the COVID the last 2-3 years. They're looking forward to opening this up to the public and running a good service for the community. And there is no plan for extended docks, boats, residences that way. It's more of a holiday tourist place. Okay. But thank you everyone for the time and the consideration. We appreciate the efforts everyone's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. I'm just wondering, listening to comments, I noticed that the extended dock that's in front of Sproat Lake Landing, I'm just wondering if it is actually a navigational hazard for the fire hall because that's one of their accesses. I'm not sure how that would play into this, but I've asked staff to maybe investigate that for me.
I'd be happy to follow up on that with our fire services coordinator. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else from anyone at this time? Okay, all right. So if there's no more responses from the community, I will.
Sorry, Penny, to interrupt. Brian Soden has his hand up again.
Oh, okay, yes. Then Brian.
Okay, I'm back now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so just one comment on that dock extension they put out there. It does extend well beyond the fire department's dock access. Now, when they're looking at that, you got to realize if you have all these boats going in and out of there and they're docked there and kids are supposedly swimming and stuff, if they have to get in and out of that dock for some reason, for an emergency, whether it's an ambulance or something, it's going to be very crowded in there between there and the Spencer's dock and their neighbor's dock. I'm not sure what the distance is in there, but you got houseboats coming in, so you got to have a freeway or throughway to the fire department's dock. So when they're looking at that, make sure they allow access for, room for when it's full of boats and houseboats and whatnot, when they're looking at whether they have sufficient room. Because they did extend it out there several hundred feet out past where it used to be. I just wanted to put that in so they have that to look at.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Okay, at this, Kim, are you holding your hand up or?
Yeah, I don't know, I've never done this before. I just want to know what happens. Like, do we get a report on this, or how do we get informed or something? What happens after this?
I'll let staff answer that.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. That's a great question. So the input compiled tonight, in addition to the letters of correspondence from the public that were received, the referral agency comments, the additional information supplied by the applicant, that all gets compiled into a report that will be presented to the board at the next board meeting, which will be held on April 13th. And that at that board meeting, the board will consider the public hearing report and minutes and receive those minutes, and then we'll consider the bylaws for second and third reading. And that's a public board meeting as well, so that's also live streamed on our website if you'd like to check it out. Otherwise, if you'd like to reach out directly to planning staff about how to connect in with that meeting, or to ask for a follow-up, we'd be happy to do that for you.
Thank you. Okay, so asking again, I see Barbara and Len Smith hand up. Chair recognizes you.
Thank you. Just to follow up on Kim's question, I'm just wondering, so you've mentioned there's another meeting coming up. Is there an opportunity there for any public input, or how are we done? What's the score here?
Yeah, there's no opportunity for additional public input following the public hearing. So that would be a meeting of the ACRD Board of Directors, and they would vote on the bylaw, and participating directors involved in this vote would be the rural area directors. So the 6 electoral area directors that we have in the regional district. They'll be hearing everything that was received in the public hearing, and then making a decision on it. If there is, if the board is requesting additional information, then they will delegate a second public hearing, and we'd be going through the process again. But otherwise, if they're ready to make a decision, then this would be the end of the public hearing.
Can the public appeal the board's decision?
So there's no appeal process. I will say, however, that if the board gives the bylaw second and third reading, that's not the finish line for this one. The application would have to then come back at a subsequent board meeting for adoption, and prior to that, we would be looking to satisfy all of the additional concerns that were listed at the beginning, the covenant and support from the Ministry of Transportation and so on. So no, there is no strict appeal process, but just know that that the meeting on April 13th, or whatever I said, yeah, I think it's April 13th, would not be the final time that the board would look at it.
If there is there an avenue for litigation here?
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, if residents do not agree with this proposal and it gets passed, and you're saying there's no appeal process, then what do the residents have as a backup should things kind of go sideways on them? Like in terms of us not, we obviously the community here does not agree. Okay, so, but the board of directors can make a decision. I understand that. But there's no appeal process if it's agreed and the community says, no, we don't agree. So what I'm asking is that, is there a process for litigation then for the community members, should they wish to do that? So it doesn't sound like there's much more of a process for, I'm just wondering if is there something there?
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, I would certainly recommend that you seek your own independent legal advice if that's a route you'd like to go. I don't, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't answer that. But if that's something that you're considering and you'd like some answers to those questions, then I would recommend seeking your own legal advice. Absolutely.
Well, do people do that at that point? Is what I'm asking.
I mean, that would be entirely up to you. That's I would not want to advise on that process. What we as regional district staff would do are working under the process that's delegated to us by the province under the Local Government Act and working through the application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Curtis Souden has put his name and number in the chat, and I'm not sure if he wants to say something, or can staff reach out to him, or?
Yeah, I've just asked him to unmute if you'd like to say anything, or
Hello, are you there?
I can hear you, Curtis. Yep.
So I'm 10745 Lakeshore Road. I've lived there for a very long time. Been swimming and stuff in the area. I've swam in that very shallow dock that they did have, doing a lot of the cleanup for from all the tourists and stuff. I've done a lot of just cans, garbage, everything you can think of, even from all the storm cleanups, from debris coming off docks and stuff. I'm not sure how much deeper the additional 100 or my dad was saying the additional length on the dock is going to create, because it is very shallow there. And I often do get swimmer's ear from swimming in those areas doing the cleanup. And as they were confirming again with the as they were saying about the boats coming in, turning up the silt, it is extremely bad, especially in the July and August months. As again, I just want to confirm that is a very bad problem. It's sometimes, it's usually very noticeable after 8 a.m. in the morning, especially when the boats start to come trafficking through there, and it does not dissipate. It takes a long time for that silt to then dissipate from the water itself. We all drink from that water. We have our pipe very long ways out to try to get away from the suction of that silt. But I know most of our neighbors do not have it as far as what we do. And even with our extreme length and depth, we still get silt coming in from our into our water line from the lake into our house. But anyways, that's another point. The proposed thing, they do have, the current existing does have a summer spring, as I like to call it, where the more they use their facilities, the more the spring occurs from that goes into the ditch and sometimes into the creek beds themselves from the springs that they have from their sewage system. The other main thing that I'm concerned about is, as some of my other neighbors have mentioned, is the additional parking and the access of walking to and from across that bridge. I know that in some of the busier times we've had parking right on Lakeshore Road on both sides, including across the highway from major events that have happened at the West Bay. Not so much around Halloween, but more when they have like a wedding venue or something there. They do not have the additional parking. I'm worried with the additional 20 units that they're talking about putting in there with only one parking spot per bedroom, that if they do have boat trailers or something like that, that these tourists are bringing up, is there going to be additional parking for those boat trailers? Where are they planning to park those boat trailers? Because I don't really want it on our narrow street. We have a very blind corner right across from Ken Smith's there. That is extremely bad corner. We've had to block off one of our driveways because it's unsafe to use. And there's a lot of people who park and walk there in the summertime months, and that's extremely hazardous. So I'm very concerned about additional parking on that section of the street. I'm not 100% certain which side of the trail is planned yet, but I'll be interested in learning more about that as it continues for the walking trail that they've been talking about. But like I said, those are my major concerns. I'm not in favor of 20 additional units for that hillside. It is, like I said, they already have problems with the water. Like I said, I've lived through where we had all of a sudden weed blooms all of a sudden from a previous leak. There's been additional times in the summer months where all of a sudden you'll get a huge weed bloom, and which happens to coincide with a lot of water running off a very dry season, a lot of water coming off that ditch. And all of a sudden we have these weed blooms and stuff, and it's very unusual. I'm not sure I know they're talking about putting a different septic system in, but I know that the current system is unable to handle what they're currently using it for. I also agree with our neighbors about the hotel plan. I understand from a resort environment that why this would benefit the hotel, but I don't believe that 20 additional properties on such a small piece of property, where the biggest concern that we have is in the middle of two salmon-bearing streets or creeks or streams. There's already issues with the current system, which apparently is being approved and is acceptable. I'm not there. It's just too many people for that small property, as the rest of our families, the rest of our community has mentioned. It's not the proper place for that type of development. The ground isn't suited for it. The infrastructure, I don't believe, is appropriate at this time. My dad was talking about the stop signs. That stop sign, I believe, should be removed and have a fare through along Lakeshore Road. And I would like a yield sign put in on that other part. I'm understanding that that's, in my opinion, what should have been done when they did the sign change to begin with. They say about the crosswalk is rarely used where it is. And again, that's just something that, I understand the purpose of the crosswalk. I do think the crosswalk is beneficial, but I think the crosswalk should be put in a different location. That is my major concerns from living in the area for 30 plus years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have Cor Vise, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I have one additional comment, basically coming back to Phil's comment that they're looking at rentals but not having boats. So if I take this particular property in question and I compare it let's say to the Maples and to Tall Timbers, people come to those properties, they go to the units, the boats are there, they're not usually leaving anymore, so there is not as much of a traffic impact on the road. Now on this particular property, they want to go to short-term rentals. In my eyes, that totally increases the traffic on the road. And on top of that, the property is not bordered on the lake, so that already creates more traffic too. That's just a sideline to what I want to add. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Was there any further comments? Just like to advise that members of the board of directors cannot receive any new information related to these bylaws between the end of this hearing tonight and making a decision on the bylaws. The next board meeting is April the 13th. If any board member does so, the hearing would be invalidated and would have to be held again. So with that in mind, does anyone have any final comments? Chair recognizes Gary Ritter.
I guess just to make one more comment, it is a good comparison to look at what they're trying to do here and look at Lakeshore, Campground and Maples. They're not quite the same, but they're a similar idea. And you look at the density there and what's going on there with all the people and all the boats and all the people on the docks there and all the boats and all the traffic there. They're talking about putting 20 units up above. Where's the rest of the infrastructure? Where are they going to go? This area doesn't support that. I mean, that's a shallow, swampy area. You can't put in a dock. You can't put in that infrastructure. It's not allowed to put in that infrastructure. As far as I know, they haven't applied for that. Where would that go? I mean, you're going to have all these additional people. It is a summertime place. If you put those in, people are going to show up and they're going to want access to the lake. Where is all that going to go? You take a look at Maples and Lakeshore Campground and you look at the density there down on the water. This is a place where people come in the summer to hang out on the water. Where are they going to go here? There's nothing there, nothing for them. They're going to spread out and start looking for someplace, but I mean, it doesn't add up. Just wanted to make that comment. Thanks.
Thank you. I see Brian Sowden's hand and Curtis Sowden's hand up. Not sure if they want to speak.
Yes, it's Brian Soden here. I have one further comment on this. If they're planning on using the current landing dock for all these people to use to access the water, whether they're swimming or using boats, I can imagine if you have several families down there, if it's going to be in the summertime and this is what they're planning, you're going to have them in the water swimming and stuff, and some boats are going to be coming in and out. It's just a pure disaster. Someone's going to get run over and killed by these boats and stuff, because if they've been drinking, which they do, and they're running in and out of that dock, it's very narrow in there and the kids are in swimming and stuff. It's just a recipe for disaster, and it's going to lead to injuries or death for families that are visiting this place, and that's not what we need on this lake. And the last thing I'd like to say is I really truly hope the board does listen to what the neighborhood has said to you tonight and the written responses that we've all put in. So I just hope that you listen to what the community has told you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. The board will receive minutes from this meeting and will be able to respond and hear what all of the applicants and members of the community have provided for the public hearing. I see Chris Soden's hand up, and I also see Kim. And I'd ask that if it's new information, please speak up. But if it's just a repeat, then I'd ask that we've already heard it. So So at this time, Chris, do you have something, or Curtis, do you have something to add?
Yes, I've actually worked at the Lakeshore campground over by Maples. And I've seen their facility after they've upgraded it just prior to before it was made private. But when it went to private, it was already established and created. And I have visited. Their whole shoreline there is easily accessible. They're not crossing roads as mentioned. I forget by which of my neighbors it was. But like that's one of the major differences. They already have basically a marina set up in deep water for the use of their residents' boats that are there short-term or long-term, depending on what they're doing. And that I think is a major distinction between this proposed property and say Maples or Lakeshore campgrounds, where they have a more permanent setup. There's not crossing roads, and their septic systems are far away from salmon-bearing creeks and streams. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Kim Smith.
I just, thank you, Penny. I just had a quick question about, will there be an environmental impact study on this of any kind? And will we know what that is?
Can staff answer that, please?
Be happy to answer that. Yes. So the Sproat Lake official community plan designates another development permit area on this lot for riparian area protection. So that would include all the lands within 15 meters of 15 meters of Weiner Creek and of any other natural watercourse. I know you've mentioned one on your back lot line. I don't think we have it mapped in our OCP mapping, but if that is a natural watercourse, then it would be included within that. So what that would do is it would trigger an assessment from a professional biologist.
It actually runs my entire fence line on our common fence line. It parallel to it all the way. And it's downhill from everything that's up there.
Prior to any development or land alteration or vegetation removal within 15 meters of the natural boundary of that, that we would require that assessment from the professional biologist, and we'd be looking at them providing recommendations on it, ensuring how the ecological values of those sensitive habitats can be maintained, and that might include recommendations to protect, restore, and enhance that riparian area by increased vegetation retention along there, or replanting with native species, or minimum setbacks, for example. And now the other thing I do want to highlight right now as well, in the current zoning, that we have a minimum 30-meter building setback from any natural watercourse as well. So that would impact development on this property as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just following along on that, there's no assessment of the lake or the creek there, because historically, I think it used to be a bird sanctuary and there's beavers there. So would that be taken into consideration with this question? Thanks.
Certainly for anything that was, within the riparian area of Weiner Creek, I don't think, because the property doesn't extend across the road, there is a big piece of public land at the south side of the bridge, the southeast side of the bridge, I guess. That you're right, that's where the beaver dams are built, and that is public land. There may be some assessments that have been done in there. I don't know about that, but that wouldn't affect development on this portion of the property.
The beavers also build on my property.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to respond to anything? Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Director. It's been a long evening. I hear concerns from the neighbors, immediate neighbors near the property and around Sproat Lake Landing. I'd just like to add a bit of new information or reassure the groups that the vision for the property is not a Maples. It's not docks, more boats, strata townhouse units for people to show up and spend the week or the summer at the dock. It is a tourist, as the OCP says, tourist and neighborhood services in the West Bay area. It's for tourists to come and stay for 3 days or a week. It's for families to jump off the dock and go for a swim, enjoy the Sproat Lake area, and perhaps do a day trip to Defino or hike. I believe it's called Mount 52 or something. There are the mountains around there. I've hiked Klitsa. It's a place to enjoy Sproat Lake for a day, do other trips around the region. Again, not a boat orientated big dock scenario hanging out at the dock. Certainly children and families we hope will go down there, but it's not a typical Maples. There's been a lot talked about tonight, and I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I see Gary Ritter. Is this new information? New question? Thank you.
Just a response to Phil's comment, and that is their plan, their intention of these facilities is that it would be for hikers and people going to the coast and this and that. Reality is anybody that comes to this neighborhood looking for a rental is looking for a rental to use the lake, to do exactly what's going on at Lakeshore Campground and at Maples. You can intend whatever you want. Reality is the people that are coming, that's what they're coming for. That's what people want the rentals for. Ask anybody that's looking for a rental, and there are many people looking for rentals on this lake. There are a lot of people constantly looking for rentals on this lake, and they're all looking for the same purpose: access to that lake, to go and play on the lake, to be doing exactly what everybody does on the lake. You put that in, and that's what you're going to attract, is that type of people. It's inevitable.
Thank you, Gary. Was there anybody else? Okay, with that in mind, does anyone have any final comments? Because this is the public hearing, and this is your opportunity.
I'd like to say.
Okay, Kim, I recognize you.
Thank you. I'd like to say that, the trails, if they're going to use the trails, if they're going to use the lake, like, it just seems like it's going to be a lot of people. And I really just wonder how we're all going to be impacted. I really do wonder how that's all going to work. I would like to know, like, I still want to know if there's going to be some sort of report on all this stuff. Like, I like the impact on all the hiking. Are they going to go to Wiener Falls? Is there impact on what's going to happen up there? It's not just here. To me, it's going to be spread out from here. But for me, I just want to put it down as a record that it's going to probably break my heart.
Well, thank you for that, Kim. Okay. Is there any other responses? Because at this time, I will call for the first time for any further representations on the bylaws. I call for the second time for any further representations on the bylaws. I call for a third time for any further representation on the bylaws this evening. Hearing no further comments, I declare this meeting terminated. Thank you all for coming and participating.